Scrapbook Peeps, Suzanna here today for ThermOWeb to share with you this layout that I created using Metallix gel and flock. So I'm going to start with the Metallix gel, and what you'll see on the palette there is I have pre-mixed the white Metallix with some Dilutions spray ink. I've just poured it in there and then I've mixed it, and I'm using an old foam stamp from Claudine Helmuth. So I'm going to stamp it once, and then I'm going to add a bit more color of the spray mist for a slightly darker shade. The intent was to actually stamp this 3 times, each in a darker shade of blue, but it was going to go too far down the page and you can't really tell that it's darker, so I just settled with a second time. So I'm loading up the foam stamp here, and then I'm going to sort of overlay it and stamp that a second time for the rain falling out of the sky for spring showers, and you can see the metallic effect of that there. So the rest of this I am going to use Amy Tangerine's Slice of Life collection, and I am going to use primarily these greens and yellow. The daffodils are green and yellow, and I wanted to focus on those colors. It's kind of a different color palette for me. Definitely not something I would normally have done in my normal everyday scrapping, so it's a little bit different than what I'm normally used to. So I cut that, actually, to be honest, smaller than what I had wanted. I wanted it to go a little bit further down the page, which is fine because it made me pull out this darker yellow, which gives it kind of grounds it. It provides in my mind what feels like the soil for these flowers against that lighter blue background, which is sort of more like the sky with the rain falling from there. I am now bringing out my flock, and you're actually only going to see this green that I'm using for the leaves, and then I'm also going to use that bluey color up in the sky for what I'm going to call clouds, but it's really more sort of messy scallops. And that is a Jane Davenport die that I got from Tuesday Morning that I'm going to use there just for the outline of that scallop. And I do have to run a shim through with my machine here in order to get clean cuts. And then I'm going to back that with one of the pattern papers from the collection. And to do that, I'm actually just going to take pencil and trace it and just fussy cut it myself. I could have used the innards from the die and run it through again, but that would have been a little bit more labor intensive, so I am going to skip that. So I've committed to these particular pieces, and so I'm going to go ahead and stick those down. I don't stick things down until I know absolutely where they're going to go. So you know that these are pieces that I have committed to using. I am actually going to use the yellow flock as well and cut a yellow flower out. I am going to end up doing that off camera because there was something about the layout that just didn't sit well with me, and so that was my solution off camera. So here I've pulled one of the greens and I've torn the edge of that, and again that ties that together so that there's a heavier weighted piece down the bottom. When I'm creating layouts, I like balance of things that are weighted by color, and this allows that darkness to really pull that picture on the right hand side of the daffodil with the tree behind it. So all of these goodies, I happen to be fortunate enough to find it Tuesday Morning. I did get the Slice of Life collection in one of my kit clubs, and so I had some of that from there, but most of what I'm using are goodies that I found at Tuesday Morning. So I've pulled a tag, and that is where I'm going to use that flocked leaf there. What I love about these dies that I used from for the bottom down here, and you'll see that in the close-ups for the flower, is that they are etched. And so if you look at the flock has not just the outline of the image, but also it's kind of an emboss that's in that the etching of the die creates. So be sure to stop at the end of the video and look at the close-ups so you can see how that flock gets pressed down even further, sort of indenting the flock, thus providing an embossed look like you would get on pattern paper or cardstock. And what I'm doing here is just, I am finished with the ThermOWeb products, and I am just layering up this layout. So completing the layout, I wanted something heavy at the top there to balance that heavy green, and so I'm looking for something with which to back that flocked scallop up there, and I'm going to settle with this kind of gray blue. It's a flecked gray blue, and that will be the clouds in the sky that will house where the title is going to go up there. Temporarily for now, I do have that today up there, but that will move down to the bottom of the page. What I honestly tried to do was I tried to really divide the colors. So I was going to have the bluey gray and the blues up the top. That signified the rain. And then I was going to have the green and the yellow, and then I tied in a few of the other colors from the embellishments. They were condensed down the bottom so that there was a diagonal movement across the page from that top right down to that bottom left. And you really needed that stuff at the top right to balance the weight of the heaviness of the things that end up being at that bottom left. So I'm just using my liquid adhesive there to adhere that down. When you're using fine edges like that flock die cut piece is, the UltraBond is really, with the metal tip, the best way to go. And I've talked on previous videos about how I just have a pin that I stick into that metal tip to clog, or to not clog, but to close off that tip so that the glue doesn't dry in that teeny tiny nozzle, and I don't have to worry about cleaning it every time that I want to use it. It's pretty much instant access. So I'm layering up that bottom left-hand corner there. Most of it is flowers. The title of this is going to end up being Hello Spring Showers, or Spring Showers, and hello could kind of be the subtitle to the title that's above the title. But it's all about the daffodils and how these photos, we literally had, like, it felt like I needed to build a Noah's Ark. I think it was 4 or 5 days of continuous straight rain, and it was just dismal. But the one benefit of it was that we did get daffodils that bloomed in February. And here we are, February. So I'm voicing this over on the 23rd, and these pictures were taken on February 11th. So they are still blooming, which is kind of nice. We did have a threat of snow and some flurries on Friday, so 3 days ago, but nothing really materialized, so fortunately the daffodils are still alive. So this is some Gina K foam. I love popping up elements, and this foam is perfect for that. It's not too high. That's what I love about that foam, is that it's just the right distance off the page to create some depth, but it doesn't feel like a skyscraper amidst the grass, especially given that this is what I wanted to kind of create an effect of ground level versus sky level. So that is a glitter sticker, the hello, which allows me to move that today down to the bottom. And while it still has blue in it, there were going to be too many words up the top if I were to have stuck that there, and they kind of, hello today spring showers, didn't flow. So that's why I moved that down there. So I went to my silhouette and I cut out spring. Now I could also have done that from the flock, but I really wanted a different blue in order to provide some contrast to the title up there. There's that other flocked flower that I'm talking about. And again, like I said, be sure to stop and see the close-ups where you can see how that etched die created more of an embossed look. And that's what I really love about the Spellbinder dies when you're using flock, if you wanted to die cut things. I had originally actually tried, there was a die that you may have seen earlier, and it was more of a background die. It looked kind of like a trellis, and I had tried cutting that out of the foam and the flock, but the quality of the die just didn't allow me to get a clean cut off of that, and it was going to take way more time to pull that neatly off of the die than I wanted to invest, so I just threw the whole thing away. Again, here is that metal tip on the UltraBond for the fine detail adhesives, and then I like to use my Gina K permanent roller, dot roller, for other things. So you'll see me switch back and forth between those two adhesives. They are a permanent fixture on my scrap desk, as that is the adhesive that I use, as well as that foam. I like the rolls of foam because I find that if you use the dots or the squares, A, those are a little bit higher than I like, and B, you just spend more and more time pulling the backing off, whereas with the foam roll, you can get as much coverage as you want. So there's that yellow flower that I'm going to pull in there. I just like how it pulls the colors together from that tag that's in the left-hand side, and it creates a bit of unity between the top and the bottom there. These are some Ellie's Studio stickers that are just going to complete the title. They are a slightly different shade of that greeny blue, that teal or aqua really, and I liked the way that they made everything work. And I believe I ran out of an R, so I'm going to have to jimmy a P and the leg of a K to create the R there. It's amazing how creative you can be with your letter stickers when you run out of them. So that, my friends, is going to wrap up my ThermOWeb use of flock and Metallix. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to leave them in the box down below, and I'd be happy to get back to you and answer them. Enjoy the close-ups. They're coming up. Thanks for stopping in today. I hope you're doing well. Take care.